Welcome to the Invincible Innovation Show, the podcast for changemakers. Each week, I talk to the most fascinating entrepreneurs and innovation leaders about innovation, strategy, and design. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Invincible Innovation Live. We're so happy to see you here. It's a show about people, innovation, and tech. I'm Adi Mazor Kario, innovation and value creation expert, and I'll be your host. And today with me, I'm so happy to have Rudradeb Mitra, founder of Omdena, AI expert and speaker and author, and a very nice person in addition to that. Very happy to see you here. Hi, Rud.
Thanks a lot, Adi, for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. We met I think a year ago, and in Google, we were both experts, and we met first in Munich in the UN World Food Program, and we talked, and I found you're so inspiring with what you're doing, and with Omdena, you're going to tell us about that. And I'm very happy that you're here and sharing your insights and understanding with me. So maybe we'll start with you telling about yourself and about Omdena.
Yeah, about myself, you already said, so I will not say more about myself. So it's more about Omdena. So I think the idea came over the last couple of years because I was traveling and being able to be in different countries and meeting a lot of interesting people. I realized a few things. First of all, that there's a lot of people that get educated online and who don't have access to opportunities. So, for example, I was in Serbia as part of the Google mentoring, and I was in Novi Sad. Perhaps you have been there too.
Yeah, I've been there. It's a nice place.
Nice city. And I was giving a speech there, and I met very interesting, smart people. But then I felt that these people don't have those same opportunities as someone in San Francisco or in Cambridge or in MIT. And there is no reason for having that difference in opportunities because people are now equally skilled no matter where they live. So my motivation was, can I create something where no matter where people live, they get equal access to opportunities to do interesting things? That's the first part. The second part of what I also observed as also being part of mentoring, but in general, that a lot of the innovation fails a lot, right? As you might know, you are very involved in innovation.
Right.
And I think one of the reasons is that we do an innovation very top down and not a bottom up, collaborative way of building solutions. So the second thought was, can we use this kind of a bottom up collaborative environment to do innovation by engaging people from all over the world? And now, because they have also access to knowledge, and we can engage these people and build interesting solutions using AI.
Right.
And the third part of Omdena was basically, can we using AI for social good? So there's a ton of interesting problems out the world which could be solved using AI.
You don't have a shortage of problems to solve with AI, and now we have a new one. If somebody sees us afterwards, we're in the middle of the COVID pandemic, so a new problem arises for you.
Yes, I mean the bottom line of understanding that the policy making, for example, COVID is a great example. That policy making is not data driven. Policy making has always been kind of opinion driven. And I think a lot of data science and machine learning could be used to build interesting models to make a data-driven policymaking, and not only during pandemic, but in general for every kind of decisions. That would help policymakers make good decisions at the end of the day. So yes, that's another application of machine learning or data science in general. And that's the point here.
Yeah, and when you think about today's world and what would innovation leaders or startups or corporate could use AI for in order to solve problems? How could they do that for them? Not only to make profit, but to solve their problems, for example.
Yeah, I always say that the first point of finding whether AI or machine learning is good is to find, first of all, a problem that you think has a high human error and that needs to be scaled up. So, and there is a pattern in that. So if you find problems where the humans are making a lot of mistakes or potentially can make a lot of mistakes, but there is a repeat of pattern, then potentially you can use machine learning. Rather than trying to say, okay, let's use AI somewhere, I always start from the problem, identify the right problems, and then see how can you use machine learning on AI, and then also look at how do you get the data.
Yeah, I know that most people say AI as a buzzword because everything they want to make faster or some kind of algorithm, they say, yeah, we use machine learning, we use AI. But actually, it's much more than that. Like, how would you define this?
So I think the basic of machine, let's say the AI is of course a quite big term, right? And machine learning is a sub part of it. And if I have to define machine learning, I'll say in the way that there are patterns in everything that we do, or everything there's a pattern. So machine learning is an algorithm that can learn the patterns, and then you can train a model that does that automatically. Because once we know the patterns, the machine can learn the pattern and then repeat that pattern over and over again. And that's basically what machine learning at the end of the day is. So that's where I will say what machine learning is. So it's not really intelligence. And when we talk about intelligence, it's not really intelligence. It just learns the patterns.
Yeah, and could you give us like an example that you're proud of a project you've done with Omdena, and you think it's a good one, it's a good example for us today?
Well, there's a lot of those. I think it's very difficult to let me think which one would be the best one. But let's say one of the things that one that comes to my mind immediately now is the work that we did with World Resource Institute, and their goal was to understand the causes of land conflicts in India. Because there's a lot of land conflicts happening, and no government, what they said, that understands why a conflict is happening. And to understand why a conflict is happening is quite important to make the right policies. So what we did is we analyzed news articles, collected the data, understood what is causing land conflicts. And then we connected that to the policies, that what policies are potentially causing those land conflicts. So now a government can, a policymaker come and say, okay, these are the policies that are perhaps helping or trying to avoid the land conflict, so they can make some decisions to improve how to avoid land conflicts. So that is one example. Another example, which I'm also very proud about the work, is UNHCR we did, where we try to understand correlation between climate anomalies and also deaths or conflict deaths. And
yeah, like when you're saying climate anomalies, we just had rain in the middle of August in Israel, which is something that we never had. So maybe we need to check that out.
Exactly, and what is causing them? I mean, if there is a pattern, maybe one-time anomaly doesn't know. But in Somalia, we saw that droughts and deaths has clear correlation, and that is understandable because of drought happens, displacement happens, and displacement happens causes conflicts because in the different communities are conflicting for the same resources. But it's not just about finding that there is a correlation or not, but actually mapping that correlation, which means that you can potentially identify in certain months at this place there will be potentially a conflict that can happen. So it's just mapping the whole pattern of movement. Yes.
And then government could predict that and make the right actions upon this prediction.
Exactly. Same now, we are working with a startup based in Israel, Zap Malaria, and they're trying to prevent malaria in Africa. And this ongoing work, but the same thing, like spread of malaria, spread of mosquitoes, water bodies. So we can model that. If you can model that, we can know that, okay, the next malaria outbreak could be potentially here, and governments can come in and proactively do something in that.
Yeah, these are like very good aims and goals in what you're doing. And we talked about last time that we talked, and it's like using your capabilities in order to do something better in the world. And I feel that COVID has revealed so many powers and capabilities of people to unite and do something together in order to make our world better, because we're all on it together on this pandemic. And
Absolutely.
And I think that one of the things that is very important for you too is co-creation, is creating something together, people over the world doing that together. And I think it's very important. And another thing that we discussed is diversity. And I always love when somebody's talking about diversity, especially when they are not women. So tell me, how do you see the importance of diversity in changing and co-creating a different future for us?
So let's talk specifically about AI machine learning. In general, of course, is very important that we all know. But in AI and machine learning, it's even more important because the data that we deal with has biases, for example. And it's very difficult for, let's say, a group of certain users or developers to see the bias unless they actually, you are talking about the other side of the story. I can give an example about Amazon built a recruitment tool, AI tool, which was biased against women because in general, recruitment, especially in tech world, is biased. But the engineers who developed it didn't see that bias because they were all male engineers. So if I'm pretty sure if there was a woman in part of the team of building the solution, she would have immediately pointed out that, look, the data is already biased. So we have to somehow build a solution that debiasing that bias that is there. So it's very important when we're building these solutions that we have a much more diverse group of people, especially in AI, because otherwise we'll end up building unethical solutions which will be biased. And we know that the bias is because the world is biased. It's not the machines are biased. It's not the
of
data.
course.
It's just people
It's
are
like
biased.
the algorithm for image recognition, that they took the pictures from the web, and most of the pictures from the web are white males, and then it's the same
So
thing.
I think that's very important, that when we build such solution, that it has this diversity, and that's what Omdena is really doing, because when you include the people from all over the world, from diverse background, culture, it in essence brings this diversity. And we have seen that over and over again. The example of Somalia, which I said, I remember one of the girl, Munira, she's actually herself a Somalian refugee living in Kenya, part of the project. So the knowledge that she brought in, the context, no, it's hard to find unless we get someone involved in that who is also engineer or machine learning engineer, right? So that's what I absolutely find important. What we have seen also in Omdena, for example, 40% of our collaborators are women, and we don't enforce that. It just naturally happens. If you give equal opportunity, what I've seen, the diversity comes naturally. So that's very important, that create equal opportunity for everyone, then the diversity just comes naturally. You don't have to put an extra effort.
How do you reach all these people, and how do you find their experience? Like, AI is something that you need. It's a skill that you need to know. So how did you find all these people involved? I think it's 1,300, right?
1,300 have been involved, but applicants at least over 5,000 people applied till now. Every challenge we get over a few hundred applicants, and this is where comes the first point of Omdena, what I said is the education. Because of online education, it has become much more accessible to people all over the world. And that's the key. We get a ton of great applicants, people who have done great work. And now mostly, and we have spent $0 on advertisement, absolutely no dollar. And if you see our LinkedIn, it's very active. People are very engaged. It's because word of mouth. People are gaining experience. They love what we are doing. Then they talk about to their friends, and then they further on come and apply to us. And we get applications not only from all over the world, but also from top universities, top companies, Google, Microsoft, because they all want to be part of something together, building something good for the society. So I think that's how we have got all these applicants, and we keep on getting the applicants.
And how do you make sure that they're professional or doing good work? That do you do any kind of exams or something? How do you know that?
So there is a selection process, because out of as I say, few hundred apply, like 200 to 300 people apply, so we select 50. So there are questions that is being asked. They fill up those questions, and based on that, if I need, I will normally do a call with them, and then based on the call, we do selection. And then while the project is on, it's a peer-to-peer review and peer-to-peer. I will not use the word pressure, but in a way, the desire to be part of something good makes them also contribute and put that time and effort. So there are checks and balances we have inside it during the project, which enforces the quality and things like that.
And it's like really open innovation and co-creation, which is very open and equal. It's not like you have this client and you have a group from the client and you have someone who is responsible for the project, and it's less hierarchical in the sense that everybody's contributing and everybody want to take part in that. And what you mentioned about the girl from Somalia, in many cases when we're doing things only based on data, we don't have exactly understanding of what is the needs and what are really these people are doing and why are they doing that. And once we are getting into these details, we can do much further. So it really makes sense to me. So what is like the most surprising thing that you learned about innovation after all this great experience you have?
What I really learned is that people are very intrinsically motivated to solve problems. At the end, if you give them the opportunity, they are very driven. And I think the belief in people really is the one I learned through all of this experience. Is that you can, like when I started this, very few people believed that you can bring 50 people from all over the world who never met, from all time zones, from Australia to US, and get something done from them with almost very little management, no top-down management. In itself, it's completely disrupting many aspects. Product development, it's disrupting, teams, management, everything is it's just not believable. But I think that what made it work, and we have been able to do great work, projects we have done, which has been delivered and which is being implemented in the real world, is basically belief in the people. In fact, we had a demo day a couple of days ago on Erdem, who's from UNDP. He actually said about it that after his experience with Omdena, being as an organization who gave us a project, he is not willing to go back to the old way of doing innovation anymore. And it was like a super interesting clip. He says that, look, I know this is the right way. It has been done, and this is the way. There is no way I'm going back. And I think that also because of belief in the people and seeing that what the power of the people can do.
Yeah,
and that's a big surprise, in a way, but also very liberating and encouraging.
I think it's a wonderful thing to think about, that people are really curious and they want to do things. Like when we're thinking about people going to work and getting their salaries, and they have to work in order to pay the bills, it's like very like we're only like small cogs in this huge machine, which is a company. But when you're thinking about the potential of people within this problem-solving project, they all want to contribute. They all want to make a better world and find the solution for it. So, in the context of going good, innovation is flourishing because of that. Because everybody wants to do something and say, yeah, I contributed to my talents, my experience, my expertise to doing something good in the world. And it's very important.
That's what I learned in that. Absolutely. It's not, innovation is not anyone lying in these top universities. Innovation is not anymore in these top companies. It is actually truly would be happening from the bottom up environment, because people want to be engaged and be part of something. That's
how do you see COVID changing this perspective, or changing the world of innovation in a sense? Do you think it's going more to that direction, or as we see big companies getting much more successful and more powerful? We just saw, I think, like when they went to Congress, all the 4 leaders, I think it's a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we saw that their companies are growing and growing, although all of the other world is going down. So how do you see that changing with what you're saying? It's like the opposite. Do you think it's going to go to that direction of people creating together, or the power will stay more and more within the companies?
Well, my answer to that always is be the change that you want to see in the world. So I don't know what will happen, but at least I want to be part of that, or at least try to do the change and move the world towards a direction where it's more bottom up. And I think that experiment of Omdena has proven that there's a ton of people out there who wants to be part of this change also. So I think it's just a matter of time and someone doing that thing. If we just let it be as it is, maybe nothing will happen. But if you put an effort and try to change it, then I think it will happen.
Yeah, I think that you just mentioned on LinkedIn a new project that you're doing against violence, I think. Could you tell us more about that? What was very interesting as I saw the post, and I said we should mention that.
Sure. So Save the Children is one of the, I think, the biggest NGO, very well reputed NGO, which exists for 100 years. And I think they have helped over 1 billion children. Wow. And I had a call with Save the Children, one of the technology heads of Save the Children, and I immediately thought this is an organization we have to work with. And the project that we're at this point focusing is primarily on online chat between children and kind of, there's not really harassment, let's say predatory chats. Like how do we identify that kind of thing, behavior from adults to children? So if you can identify that, we can potentially save some of the children who are spending a lot of time more online,
right,
and protect them from, let's say, predatory older people, men and women.
So
that's the first idea.
And it's like in a specific country, or it's where do you aim
Global.
to find?
We want to do this globally,
Elsewhere.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we might even look at 3 different languages. So our goal is to look at the chats or the conversations in Spanish, French, and English.
I think that when you're saying about the children and what is a moral obligation to do a better world for these children is something that I miss in the big companies. For example, like does Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, which most kids are not on Facebook anymore, but social media is so responsible for the hatred and the bullying that there is out there, and it seems that they're not doing enough in order to prevent that. And I'm really happy that there are private people like you thinking, how can we make this a problem worth solving and finding a solution for? Because it's out there. It's not that hard. Yeah,
Yes,
like
exactly.
you just need to find these patterns of language. What are they saying? How do they seduce them? What are the words that they're saying? Like, what is this way of what is the kind of conversation they're having in order to find these people? And it seems like because it's not economical, and most governments don't spend that much money on these kinds of initiation, it's not out there enough.
Yes.
um
And
we
exactly, I mean, there's a ton of this kind of interesting the problems that should be solved, and companies are not interested despite having all the money. And it's okay. I understand they're business driven. They have their own motives, their own visions. It's fine. I mean, I don't have to go and say, okay, you should do this, you should do that. And my point is, okay, if they are not doing it, we should do it as people. Uh, and I wrote this article, in fact, a year ago, more than a year ago. The future of innovation will be not driven by governments or corporations, but by people bottom up. And I think
yeah,
that's what we have to do. We identify the problems, we come together, and we solve the problems together. And I think that once we do this thing, governments and corporations will take a notice, and then they will say, okay, we want to be either part of it or we will do it ourselves, and that's fine. But I absolutely agree with you that this kind of things should be solved, and these are not difficult problems. Actually, these are
no,
not like super technical
it's not
problems. Yeah.
hard.
It just
It's
requires the
not.
right motivation.
Yeah, we had a few hackathons here, and most of them were more addressed to the COVID during these months. But one of them was for against violence against women at home, which rose much higher during this quarantine and financial problems, and women suffered, and kids at their home. And they gathered, I think, hundreds of people trying to solve this problem, which is when you're thinking about all the technologies out there, and AI is only one of them, but there are so many of them that we could utilize in order to help people. And what I find really beautiful in that we're helping people that we really don't know. They don't know we're thinking about them, and we're investing our energies for them. It's not like, yeah, I'm very nice to you, you'll be nice to me afterwards. It's like pure, like sharing your love with the world, and they get a better life with your talents. And
Absolutely.
it's so beautiful to see.
We did the same with Red Dot Foundation in India. We tried to understand what causes domestic violence during the COVID. And we analyzed 80,000 news articles and Twitter and Google Trends and identified the places and causes. So we did a really interesting work. We are going to do the demo in next week. But because you mentioned about hackathons, and I wrote an article like a month or 2 months ago that why hackathons will not build the real world solutions. And just to arguing this thing that I think that people really have the right motivation when they come in and do the hackathons. But it's very important that if we want to actually go and build solutions, we have to, first of all, partner with an organization that is actually solving the problem on the ground. So that's why Omdena always works with an organization. So Save the Children, Red Dot Foundation, there are this ton of very interesting organizations that are solving the problem. They don't have the technical expertise. So come in, work with them to solve the problem. That's one thing. The second thing is also, I think that what hackathons miss often is it's like a weekend, 2 days, 3 days, but then there's no follow through. You cannot build a solution and then no follow through. It's great, but it has to be followed through, and it has to be longer period so you can actually build something tangible. And the third problem that I have in hackathons, but which perhaps now has been solved because of a lot of online hackathons, is that, and I wrote this post, we were talking about male and diversity, and I always say diversity should be cognitive diversity and not a token diversity. What it means that cognitive diversity comes when we bring people from all over the world, different backgrounds. But if we get selected 10 people in a room, different sex, different backgrounds, color, skin, race, but all from Silicon Valley, to me, that's not diversity.
Yeah,
because
I see
they
what
have
you're
the same thought process. What often
Yeah.
hackathon does is they bring people from the same area, same locality. So that doesn't create a diversity, even if they look diverse.
Yeah.
So it's very important that when we build real world solutions for the world, we get the cognitive diversity.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think that in most cases, when the hackathons were done online, and everything is online right now, you say, you saw many people from many countries, and many of them think differently, and they try to solve things differently, and then they have more power. And I think that today innovation leaders understand that what we once thought, that there is this big leader and he has the understanding and the knowledge and he's very experienced and he knows best, and everybody's below him, and he calls the shots. And now we know that when we're creating something together in co-creation, understanding it's much more important. And one more thing, that I think that the soft skills are getting much more important than in the past. In the past, you were very smart and you went to the right business school, and it was like a very good indication of your success. And now we know that having empathy, having the ability to motivate others, having the ability to understand people in your team, in your customers, so forth, is so important. And it makes me it makes me very happy to think that we are more human in a sense and less technical. And I think it's a very good change in the world.
Absolutely. I think that the technical part is only going to be taken over by machines sooner or later. What machines will not be able to take about part is the human part of it. So we have to develop the human part. So when people say, is AI good? I said, yes, it's absolutely good, because it will make us more human. It will make us develop the human abilities more, empathy and understanding, cultures. Machines will take ages. I don't know when or where, if ever, or should do that. Also that you said about this, the thought process of innovation from the top down, that people, leaders and things, and I can't agree more to that. Absolutely agree. I've seen that myself firsthand. A few weeks ago, I was in a panel discussion, and there are people from Harvard and MITs and top universities, and I felt that there was this essence that we will do things and the rest of the world will follow that, what we do. And I think that's completely wrong. That's completely different. That's not going to happen anymore. And if companies and organizations and universities think that, I think they're going to doom to fail. And they're failing. 90% of innovation projects fail. And because of the same attitude, and they keep on doing the same thing. And that's okay. I mean, but they will sooner or later realize they have to do this co-creation. And it's not just a buzzword anymore. It's not that. It is the only way you can actually build solutions that will be adopted by people.
Yeah, I think that when people think about creating a product, they think about certain roles and people with certain capabilities joining forces. And actually, it's more about the people and their motivations and their eagerness to do what they're doing, more than their talents or their knowledge. It's much.
Absolutely.
It's over estimated in a sense.
Absolutely. And that's what Omdena is. Exactly what you said. You bring the people with the right motivation, give them the right opportunities, and together they will solve the great problems in the world. They don't have to be a PhD. Really, they don't have to be, because most problems doesn't require a PhD anyways.
No.
So that's the future of innovation. And I think that's something I can't agree more. And one is not only that I'm talking, but we have seen that over the last 1 year and 3 months or 15 months, we have executed great work. And that's what we can say to example and to prove that this is the way to go ahead.
Yeah. And what, if a leader or innovation leader will come to you, what would be your first or few tips that you'll give him in order to make a better innovation projects or using AI for it? What would you tell him?
I have to think of it, but I think that what I will say is that exactly what I said to you, that if you are serious about innovation, you have to involve the people whose problem you are solving. You cannot just sit and say, okay, I'll build something for the other people. You have to involve them and let them build their solution. And your role should be give them the opportunity and for example, infrastructure or whatever, but move out from solving and provide them the platform or the opportunity so that they can solve it for themselves.
Right.
That's what I would say.
I think that I think 2 or 3 episodes before I talked with Martin about co-creation, and we talked about the importance of involving the end customers, which is the people that you're solving the problem for, not only in like in after a few months you go and show them as like this is what you wanted or not, or in the beginning let's do an interview. And what you're saying is really matching to what he's saying, like get these people involved within the project and not only as the recipients of the end result.
Exactly. And that's even more possible now because because of online education, these people often have also the technical knowledge to be involved in that, and they have the motivation to be involved in that. And that would have not have possible, let's say, 15 years ago. Most likely. Now, I couldn't have imagined 15 years ago or 10 years ago involving a refugee in Somalia to build a solution for climate in Somalia, because maybe he would not have access to the knowledge. But today's world, and I think online education has made it more accessible, the knowledge to everyone.
Yeah, I think that this applies to educational systems and how they do their work and what they are teaching and their importance in the world first. And the second thing is like we can get people involved even if they're not technical. They could be part of the solution if they don't write the exact code within the group. They could be part of the group not only as doing the execution. They could be part of what you're doing. And I think that people, once they understand the importance of their feedback and their knowledge and their presence even, it's so important. When I work with companies, in many cases, they most of them never saw the end customer. Maybe sales, maybe someone from customer care. That's it. They never saw these people.
But those people are never involved in building the product often. The salespeople are not building. The innovation department lives in its own world.
Right.
And I wrote this post about that a lot of companies think that by building bean bags and letting people come in T-shirts, you are doing an innovation. That's so wrong, Yeah. I mean, I have this discussion with banks, and they said, okay, we'll build this startup culture in our innovation departments. And their plan of building a startup culture is put some bean bags and let people come in T-shirts. That's not how innovation works.
Yeah, I think that most companies struggle with innovation because there is this force of saying, yeah, we're doing what we're doing and we're doing it well and our business model works well. Why should we change? And on the other hand, we know we should change because the world is changing and we need to change. And of course, today with COVID, they understand the world is changing faster than you expect. But it's really hard for them to do this change in perspective and the way they're thinking. And that's the big challenge for them, not the technical part of how to do the processes. It's much more before that, not to be afraid of change because it's part of our lives and it's part of your business. And if not, you will not be here in a few years. And we Absolutely. Know that companies are their lifespan is going shorter and shorter, and companies understand that. For sure, they understand that aspect, but they don't know what to do with it in most cases. And I think it's more connected. Most people think it's a technical part, like they put this system and then it will work, use this technology and then it will work. And I think it's much more in their way of thinking and their way they see the world than in the technology they might buy and use, maybe, which is more or less what you're saying about believing in people and their importance in this tech-driven world, I would say. We live in a world that is driven by what we can do and could do and not we should do. And we see that around us. And what you're doing is like taking what we should do and trying to solve it together, which is wonderful as I see it. I want to thank you for being with me, and it was very interesting, and for me it was heartwarming to talk to you when you see people as people and problems as solving something which is substantial and important, and you want to make good in our future, which is very important as I see it. And if somebody would like to hear more from you or read more of your posts and maybe take part with Omdena, where could they find you?
So LinkedIn, I think that's a place to find me. And about Omdena, just website, omdena.com. There are the projects listed. If you want to be part of it, you can go and look at the projects and apply via that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I would advise anyone who wants to make the world better to think, how can they do something with Omdena, either as an organization or as private people who want to do better. And we need to discuss what can I do in order to make something good with you, which is very important as I see it. And I want to thank you for your time. It's been very interesting for me, and we should catch up again in a few months and talk again. So thank you, Rud. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Adi, for inviting me, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for everyone who's took part here and watched the live show, and see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah. I'm Adi Mazor Kario, and you've been listening to the Invincible Innovation podcast. Make sure to visit our website, invincibleinnovation.com, where you can learn more about our programs and my book, Innovating Through Chaos. I'll be waiting for you next week in our next episode. Thank you for listening.